Hello folks, I thought I'd share with you my remote dust collector switch that I made. I needed to be able to control my dust collector remotely so that I actually use it more often. But I didn't want to go out and spend $30, $50 or whatever for a remote switch that can handle the current. So I already had a remote Christmas light switch that I had laying around, so essentially, and wasn't even really using it, so essentially this was free. However, again, to be able to handle the 12 amps that the dust collector requires, plus more actually at peak when you start it up, I didn't want to rely obviously on this device, so I connected it to a contactor. This is a 2-pole 30 amp contactor. And so essentially the remote controls the coil of the contactor, and then the contactor closes the circuit between the incoming 110 and the outgoing plug over here, which is where the dust collector is plugged into. So just to show you a little bit more of the connections, very simple. Again, power comes in, it goes to one side of the contactor, each pole is separate, and then one branch goes into the input of the remote switch, and then the output of the remote switch, which used to come out from here actually, goes back out to the coil. Okay, so this is one side of the coil and this is the other side of the coil of the contactor, and that closes the circuit between these two poles, and then the outgoing power goes out directly. Ground is carried through from the input to the output. This device does not need ground. And so the remote switch obviously turns it on and off. Just to show you a little bit more on the diagram here that I made up, essentially again you have power coming in, it branches out, it goes on the in-feed side of the contactor. This is one remote switch that you can find on Amazon. Essentially you open it up. I was able to open this guy up and expose the circuit, and I soldered the wires directly onto the circuit that's inside here. This is not exactly the same one, but it looks very similar. And then I removed this plug. Again, that's why there's a hole here, and this slides right out. And then where this plug was soldered onto, again on the PCB, I soldered the wires that go out here, and one goes to one side of the coil and the other one goes to the other side of the coil. Again, power comes in, it goes to one side of the each pole on the contactor, and then finally the other side of the contactor goes directly to the output plug, and that's where the dust collector plugs in. So alternatively, in fact, I was going to do this initially, but I decided to use this because it doesn't rely on any server. But initially, I was actually thinking about using my Sonoff smart devices. So this could be made into a smart switch as well for high current. So if you have a not a thermostat, but an electric heater that you want to control, the most that these Sonoff devices go up to is 16 amps. If you get the Sonoff Dual, you can wire it up for 16 amp load. But if you had, again, a 20 amp or 30 amp electric heater, then you cannot use these guys. So this device, this configuration can be used with a Sonoff device. You can use the Sonoff Basic, which I have a few of actually, and you can use the wireless remote control. You can actually also use Alexa, by the way, to control this, right? So you can use the wireless remote control plus the bridge to control the Sonoff Basic, or you can use a Sonoff Basic RF directly, which allows you to have the remote control the Sonoff Basic directly without the bridge. So again, same configuration, power comes in, one side goes to each pole of the contactor, and then the other branches off and it goes to the input side of the Sonoff device, and then the output of the Sonoff goes to the coil. So again, the Sonoff controls the coil of the contactor, and then finally the output of the contactor goes directly to the outfeed side of the plug that controls your appliance. Again, in the example of an electric heater that requires high current. So again, this contactor also came from Amazon. This contactor was $8.47 or something like that. So very cheap, very affordable, and this will handle a a 30 amp load per pole. So just to give you again a little more, see if this focuses. It's a Packard contactor, and again a 30 amp pole, dual contactor with a 120 volt coil, AC coil. So it's important the coil obviously is AC because you're controlling it with the you're controlling the coil with the AC directly. So make sure that that is the case. Don't get a 24 volts AC or something like that. So anyways, this is it, and I have for now placed it into a plastic container. That's the purpose of the wooden base that I made there, and basically right now, and again I also kept the plastic box of the switch, that way there is nothing touching anything, especially the 110 over here, and everything fits inside here. And again, this is temporary while I figure out a container itself. And this closes nicely, snaps in place. Everything is contained in there. And I then put it next to my dust collector, plug this into the wall, plug the dust collector in here, and I am able to control it remotely. So have fun. Hope this was interesting for you, and thanks for watching.